Change and release scenarios H and I. The change process uses matrix risk calculations to revise the risk assessment as the impact of the change is analyzed. Let's start the change process workflow to see how it works. The first analysis done was to use the information in the CMDB to predict what outages would occur during change implementation based on the CIs being targeted by this change. The business criticality score for those CIs was then examined to determine the overall impact of the change. Next, the workflow uses a matrix to calculate the priority based on the updated impact and urgency values. Note that this matrix behavior is easily configured by customers. And finally, an initial risk calculation was done based on the impact and probability of failure values. Next, the workflow issues assignments to subject matter experts to do their assessments, if this change model calls for it. Subject matter experts provide their inputs on this tab. The impact values they provide will be used in subsequent recalculations of risk. Now the change owner is asked to verify that the implementation plan applied by the change template is complete and all CIs are assigned appropriately. Once this is done, the impact and risk will be recalculated using that implementation plan. The first step is to again predict outages based on the information in the CMDB. Next, the business criticality value on all the predicted outages is analyzed, as well as any impact scores provided by subject matter experts to calculate the overall impact and risk of the change. The results from the impact analysis to identify predicted outages can be seen on the Impacts tab. The predicted outages are shown in a tabular view at the top and graphically below. The CIs highlighted in yellow are the predicted outages. IBM Control Desk Critical Capabilities Change and Release J. This is the Change Schedule app. It's used to view scheduled changes and releases. Each row here is a change or a release, and on the right is a Gantt view which displays them in time order. Like other apps I've shown, you can use more search fields, where clause editing, view managed queries, and save queries to filter the data down to see the view that you need. You can see over here there's already some queries been built. The red color here indicates there's a schedule conflict. We'll talk more about what that means later. This is the Change Window Calendar application. This is where you define change windows for the configuration items. As you can see, it's a calendar view. On each day, it shows if there's any hours available for a change window. You click on it, it brings up a dialog which shows you the details. You can use the Schedule Change Windows action to define change windows and repeating patterns, for example, every day, every week, every month. The Configuration Items tab is where you associate which configuration item uses this change window calendar. This is the Blackout Periods application. It's where you define change blackout periods. A couple of interesting characteristics are that you can specify an approver, which must approve all changes scheduled during blackout periods. Also, you can specify whether it applies to all configuration items or specific ones, which you would specify down here. This is the graphical scheduling application. It's used to schedule changes with accordance with the calendar constraints. You can have as many changes as you want to include in a particular scheduling project. In this case, we have one change and the tasks associated with that change. On the right is a Gantt view that shows the tasks of that change. In the bottom, we see the resource constraints or calendar constraints that are used to determine the schedule. Those include change windows, blackout periods, and other changes scheduled against the same configuration items. And on the right is a visualization of which times are available. We can collapse the details of the constraints so we can see there's one time available on the 24th, and if we zoom out a little further, we'll see that other times become available in the future change window calendar times as well. Now, if we want to see the details of why a particular time is not available, we can open up these constraints and drill in to see what blackout period, which change window, which CI, things like that. There is a button available that you can use to schedule for the next available time right here. You click on this and it moves it to a time which is available. You can also right-click on the available times on the bottom and ask to say to use for schedule. IBM Control Desk Critical Capabilities Change and Release K. So here we are in the change application. This is a change that we want to implement in a release. So we're going to use this action down here, the release request action, which has the ability to request that this change be added to a release, either a specific release or any release, and then the release management team can decide how to do it. So we're going to request that we add to release. We have an infrastructure release we want to add it to, so we'll select that one. That will create a request for the release management team to separate the duties between those two processes. So let's come over here to the release application, take a look at that release. So we'll see in here that if we scroll down to the release content section here, there already is one change in this release, this change 2013. So then if we use the action that they can manage any outstanding requests for this release from other teams, And they may be requests to add a change to release, or they may be a request to remove a change from a release. So in this case, we're looking to see if anybody is requesting to add changes to this release. Here's the change we added before, this 2012. So we're going to accept that request. We could, this is how you would reject, but we're going to accept that change into this release. So we'll see that will show up now in our list of changes implemented by this release. So it's easy to see which changes are in which release. And then if we look at, let's go to the process details tab next. So here's kind of a dashboard for the change. I'm sorry, for the release. Here's the, it separates out the types of tasks, approval tasks, any milestones that might, milestone tasks, implementation tasks, right? So you can see we already have some tasks around the building, testing, and implementing of the change that was here previously, 2013. So we'll do a similar thing for this change we just added. We'll create tasks for that as well. And there is down here a more graphical view of this as well, which is like a work in progress as this release is being put together. So just to quickly give an idea of what we'd have to do to add that 2012. So here's on the plans tab, we have the tasks here. So you can see tasks for building, testing of that previous change that we added already, 2013. So we'll just need to add similar kinds of tasks for this change 2012, which is very straightforward. You just click on the new row, and let's do the build task, right? Build change 2012. You see it showed up in the tasks here. IBM Control Desk, critical capabilities, change and release, L. Let's see how we can record post-release review findings. We're in the release application. The place you will record findings from the review would be in the log tab, where we can log all kinds of activity with this release. So we'll come here to the log tab. We'll say click new row to create a new log entry, or say we're going to create a review type entry to record review comments. We'll record the comments. There's you can put the summary of the comments here, and you put the details of the comments down here, and then you just click save, and that'll save the record. So now we've created a record to record review comments. Another important thing you might want to do post-release, if you find issues that cause incidents, you come to the related records tab and you want to associate those incidents with the release for reporting purposes, so you can see what incidents were caused. You can see already we've recorded here the changes in this release, and these are the requests to add change here, these SRs. So let's say that we knew of an incident that was caused by this release. We could search for it using whatever search fields we want to. Then we can just select it and say OK, and that will associate this incident with this release. IBM Control Desk, critical capabilities, change and release. M created a catalog request to front end a change. So I'm in the catalog now, configure virtual machine settings, and I'm going to change memory allocation for virtual machine. So we're going to select which virtual machine. There's two ways you can run this demo. High impact impacts a lot of business critical applications and requires approvals and does not get automated. Low impact is a standard change model and does get automated because it doesn't impact any critical business systems. So we're just going to select a new memory size for the VM, and we're going to submit the request. What's going to happen is this catalog has a script that recognizes for this classification to create a change and kick off the change process. So you can see here it's some log entries coming from the change, so we can go take a look at the change and see where we're at. Okay, so let's go to the service request that started that. I believe it was this one. So the service request was created by the catalog offering being submitted, and then the script that was run against it recognized again that this type of a catalog offering should be implemented through a change. And so we're on the related records tab. You can see there's a related change record here, and this change was created automatically from the script implementing the catalog offering, and the change process was kicked off from that script as well. So the change process ran. We see that the configuration item is here on the change. So an impact analysis was done automatically by the change workflow, and it was determined that there was only, see, the business impact is low. That's 4 is a low value, 1 is the highest, most critical. So since there was a low impact, the change model was selected automatically and applied to this change record, and the change was automated, fully automated. You can see there's a there's a checkbox here that gets checked in the change record when it's fully automated, so the change process doesn't request any human intervention at all. So the change was completed, and that virtual machine was updated automatically.